Hello everybody and welcome to Assembly, and I get to start with something that I've not been able to do for 7 months, and that is some results and reports from sports fixtures. So here we go. Cricket. On Wednesday we finally managed to play our first cricket match of the year, but unfortunately the other 3 matches planned were cancelled, although the students from York University were willing to come along and play the 5th form team. In damp conditions with coloured kit and following the new 100-ball format, there was an excellent match played with the university students coming out on top. Great though to finally play a full cricket fixture, and thank you very much to all the staff who made that happen. And in hockey, the girls were excited to play a set of fixtures against Worksop College on Wednesday. So the under 17s, 16s, 15s and 14s all enjoyed an opportunity to be competitive again. Overall, the results were 3 wins and 1 loss, but simply playing a match again was the key feature. Poetry competition. Yesterday was National Poetry Day, and to mark the occasion and link into World Mental Health Day and the European Day of Languages, the English Department and Library are running a competition. The categories are what it's like to learn a language, my brain and me, and 2020 vision. Pupils from all year groups are invited to submit a haiku or a poem of up to 14 lines, so maybe a hint about a sonnet format there, although any form is acceptable, to their English teacher, to Miss Wong or to Miss Pearson, and entries close on the 9th of October with a prize for each category. From Mr. Miles Kingston, School Choir. It's been really encouraging to start our year group choirs, and the attendance and singing have been excellent so far. We'll be running rehearsals for 3rd and 4th form girls this Friday lunchtime. 3rd form girls should come to chapel after period 5 at 12:45 for a short 20-minute rehearsal, and the 4th form girls at 1:20 after their lunch. And he says that we're learning some pop songs for inclusion in cabaret in the summer. And results of the Old Peterite Club archive competition, which you may recall was running towards the back end of last term. And the winners are, in the 3rd form, John McGain, Jaja Chan, also in the 3rd form, 4th form, Will Miles Kingston, 5th form, Neve Machin, and 6th form, lower 6th, Annabelle Kelly. So many congratulations. The winning entries can be viewed in the Monkey Cage and will form part of the school's archive records of the pandemic. They gave us great insight into how we cope with the normal routine, and from the Old Peterite Club, a huge thank you to everyone who took part. And finally, a couple of weeks ago, I was explaining how we're putting an increasing emphasis on the development of skills for life and reflecting on the way in which all we do at school helps shape the whole person. Of particular interest is the list of skills identified by the World Economic Forum as being foundational for successful lives and careers in the future, and they've been used as themes for tutor time, and this week's theme is creativity, and one which opens up many thoughts and possibility. You don't have to look far to see examples of creativity at school, whether that be in the most obvious places such as music, art, design, technology and other subject areas. But creativity is found in almost everything we do. For example, it was fantastic to have those first sports fixtures taking place on Wednesday for many months. And in the midst of a hockey game or a cricket game, there's not just the potential for creativity, but actually the requirement for it in terms of putting in place, for example, a different bowling strategy against particular batsmen, or working out how to get the ball into the opposition's D against their particular defence setup and setting up a goal. And in the last 7 months, we've all had to show enormous creativity in areas such as taking some very fixed government guidelines and putting them in place while keeping true to all the things we think are important about school. And lockdown itself, of course, generated creative ideas such as the Isolation Olympics, sporting challenges and fundraising opportunities. We often talk about the creative spark, and that notion of inventiveness is often associated with the idea of an artistic genius coming up with a new painting or a piece of music seemingly from nowhere. Interesting though that seemingly new flights of thought often build on the accumulation of much thought and experience. Coleridge's famous poem Kubla Khan is one such example, starting with those wonderful opening lines in Xanadu de Kubla Khan, a stately pleasure-dome decree, where Alph, the sacred river ran, through caverns measureless to man, down to a sunless sea. One of my favourites, in case you're wondering. The legend has it that Coleridge came up with the poem whilst in an opium-induced sleep, and on waking decided to write it down as quickly as possible before he forgot. There was a knock on the door by a man who'd come from the town of Porlock, who'd actually visited the wrong house, but the break in concentration was enough to derail Coleridge's train of thought, and the poem stands now apparently unfinished. Well, some years ago, an academic went through all the known books and other writings that Coleridge had been reading in the years leading up to him writing Kubla Khan, and perhaps unsurprisingly found that many of the ideas and references and phrases were to be found dotted around in his prior reading, lying, waiting in his subconscious to come out, apparently as it were, from the ether. So, perhaps Kubla Khan is not just a spark of creative fantasy, but does that really matter? It remains a great poem, and perhaps a good reminder of the importance of practice and creativity. Some time ago, I spoke about the rule of thousands of hours of practice being required to develop great talent, and the link between practice and good fortune is fairly clear. There's a great story of the professional golfer who managed to chip his ball into the bunker, from a bunker straight into the hole at a moment of tremendous pressure in the tournament. And a spectator called out, "That was lucky," to which the golfer turned around and replied, "Yeah, and do you know what? The more I practice, the luckier I seem to get." There's a really interesting book on theories of education called Natural Born Learners, which I was reading over the summer. It identifies a number of strands that are crucial not just for success at school, but also for setting up an interesting and successful life later on. And creativity sits right at the heart of that book's research. And it's true that not only are we as human beings born with creativity and the ability to be creative, but that it can be developed through both conscious and unconscious practice, and is of course an activity which brings us enormous happiness and enjoyment. Will Gompertz, the BBC art correspondent, gave a great speech a couple of years ago called "Every School an Art School," with the title itself taken from an artist's manifesto. What he meant was not just that the creative subjects are a vital part of the curriculum, but that aspects of art and creativity are vital, and he expressed his concerns about where education was heading in some schools with a narrow focus of education. And he said, "We're bringing up a generation of children who are being sent mad. Kids being taught to learn by rote, regurgitate information, which Google can do, and they're not being taught to apply information at all. So we're bringing up a bunch of children who are behaving like computers, not a bunch of children who are behaving like designers." I really honestly think that all schools should be art schools, and that's not just so that people can have their arms covered in paint. I just think children want to have these spongy brains. They want to apply their knowledge, and what you learn at an art school is to apply your knowledge. Well, one of my favourite lessons at school was one I wasn't actually meant to be in, but turned up to by mistake. It was a brilliant art lesson on Jackson Pollock and his splatter paintings, explaining the connection between conscious and unconscious action. And years later, I read new research that Pollock's paintings were visual examples of a mathematical geometrical figure called fractals, which weren't described until some years after Pollock's paintings. So creativity, a brilliant skill and full of endless possibilities. So keep developing your creativity and look for it in the world around you. Have a good end to the week and a very good break over the weekend.